Oh, we rise, we unite, from the mountains to the sea, warriors for the love, you and me.
Welcome, one and all, to Rainbow Warriors 101. We are honored and excited to be here this evening with all of you. I am Michelle, and I will be your co-host alongside of Chief Mal Standing Eagle and our beautiful Zon. As the children of Mother Earth, we are humbly stepping into the new earth, hand in hand, forging the way for all generations to come. Wow, this is super exciting. So before I pass the feather over to Chief Standing Eagle, there's a couple of guidelines that I'd like to go over. The first one is all of our learning circles are recorded and will be posted on Facebook, TikTok, Rumble, and YouTube. So if you do not want your face and or your name recorded and possibly made public, we ask that you please either change your name and also close your camera. Otherwise, we cannot guarantee that that will not happen. Okay, so please ensure that your microphones are muted while our speakers are sharing with us this evening. And there is also a zero tolerance for disrespect. We are here, uniting as one, the one that we are. And as Rainbow Warriors 101, we are a safe place for all First Nations peoples to come globally together, meaning all cultures, all races, and all colors. Children are most certainly welcome. However, we ask that they are with the supervision of an adult. There will be time for questions and answers afterwards. The meeting will be closing down at, hold on, I got to remember here because I'm Atlantic time. So at 8:30 Eastern time, the meeting will be closing down. So if your questions have not been answered, please email us, and I've put our email in the link, Rainbow Warriors 101 united@gmail.com. Your questions will be answered and they will be posted in on our Facebook page. And again, that link is also in the chat. Okay, so if you'd also like to learn more about Chief Mal Standing Eagle, you can do so through his book, A Life Most Magical, which is on Amazon, and the link is also in the chat. And with that, I am done speaking right now, but I'm going to pass the feather over to Chief Mal Standing Eagle for opening prayer and introduction of our wonderful speakers tonight. Chief Mal.
Thank you, everyone. I'm glad you're here for our Maiden Voyage. I want to give thanks for this day. And prayer is a conscious intent. It is energy that is given. We're electrical systems, we're impulse. And there is power when we come together in our focus and our intention. So with that, I am burning sage, cedar, sweetgrass, and some Palo Santo for healing. And with that, I want Creator's blessings upon this, and I add tobacco to this prayer, so that this day we remember who we are, where we came from, and that which we represent. So Creator, we come before you as Rainbow Warriors. We ask your protection as we take on the new earth and the changes that are to come. We are most humble in this mission, and we give gratitude of being able to give and have this opportunity to be the difference for the next 7 generations and for all of those throughout the world, regardless of race, creed, color, all First Nations. We are one in the eyes of Creator. And with that, we give thanks for the lessons we are to receive. Aho. Very quickly, for those that are new here and do not know me, I am of very mixed blood. That's in my book. I did not plan to write a book. The grandmothers told me I had to do so. I did not know who they were. They sought me out. Like Daniel Brinkley, I've been hit by lightning twice. I wasn't quite as bad as him, so they didn't kill me. It turned me into a zombie for a while. So Creator has a way of getting our attention. Um, Humorous side, my dad, my grandfather was a German Jew. He married a full-blooded red-headed Irish Catholic and converted to Christianity. And then my dad ended up becoming an army chaplain and a Baptist minister. So I've been raised uh, in the church. My mother's side was English and Native American, and I find out that I come from some serious heritage after some of the guys started running the codexes and everything on my family heritage. And with that, I was sought out after being made a peace chief here in South Carolina. I spoke at Star Knowledge, and then the grandmothers reached out to me, and I'm proud to carry the chanupa that was used by the Hopi prophecy keepers, by Dr. Robert Ghostwolf, that was used at ceremony, that was used at ghost dance and at various other peace ceremonies. So it is an honor and it is most humbling. And with that mission, we begin tonight, and we must have a foundation. The foundation in which we build is most important. I was a builder for many years. If you build a weak foundation, your house is going to crack and it's going to crumble. So it's important that we do this right. And with that being said, we're bringing in leading experts in each of the fields that we will be coming through, bringing First Nations people together. And so we start with the foundation, Mother Earth, the soil. And with that, I'm honored to have my friend Lance Beem here. He is sitting in with Dr. Will. Dr. Will is in, both are very active in restoring the earth, clean up. Dr. Will is overseeing literally tens of thousands of acres, white pine. They're working on a project now in California, taking contaminated soil and cleaning it. With that being said, I will let you share a little bit about that, Brother Will.
Thank you, Mel. This is great to be here. Can you hear us okay? All right. Yeah, so I have had a most interesting journey. I've had over 40 different mentors in my life, Lance being one of them. To share bits and pieces to bring together a system whereby we're with natural substances, we're able to take exotic chemistry, radiation, forever chemicals, pesticide residues, plastics, and so forth, and digest them and turn them into beneficial elements for the soil, for the plants, using all natural elements that have been collected from around the planet. So using a natural sciences, which is based in that Mother Earth, the natural, the way the earth survives and turns all kinds of items into food for itself. So that's what we're using, that philosophy and that system now that we have, so we can restore our soils and create nutrient dense and healthy, high vibrating food. You're not, you're muted, Mel.
Forgive me. So
There you go.
we're literally talking of stripping the oils, the chemicals from the soil to help return it to a natural state. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that the system that we have takes the contaminants, the oil, hydrocarbons, petrochemicals, whatever residues, and turns it into either a colloid mineral or a essential fatty acid, which is a benefit for the environment. So it's true alchemy, actually.
So with farmers that's been farming for years and they want to get away from using pesticides, and they want to get into more natural farming. What would you recommend for them in crops or rotation or what to start their cleanup? Even people that have gardens, because I'm a gardener myself and I'm really concerned about what's around my garden, and I run my tiki torches to keep the bugs away as much as possible and flowers. But what is your recommendations?
Ultimately composting, making humic matter, and adding to your soil is always beneficial. But getting the contaminants out, there's not a lot of systems out there that can say that they can do that. So that's where we've created the system. Ours, you can find the information. Can I just give you the
Sure,
website? I mean, I think I've
please.
given it. It's soilsaviors.org. Soilsaviors.org. You can find hours and hours and hours of video and different applications and different experiences and customer videos and so forth, as well as a whole educational series of videos you can get for free there. So that's we've pretty much taken almost all the mystery out of it, and with some simple directions of mixing some components into a bucket, and then filtering and spraying it onto your land or your plants. We've taken all, the mystery out to make it very user friendly and straightforward.
Okay. What is your feeling about the use of hemp and sunflowers and other things? Will they work in cleaning up farms, or does it take a little more drastic measures to do this type of cleanup?
That's an interesting question, because I've being a naturopath, I work with a lot of people directly, and I have come to find several people that had some cadmium poisoning in their cannabis medicine,
Hmm.
and that was actually causing some seizures. And I come to find out that the cadmium was being displaced from the soil and put into the plant, and then the oils were moving from the plant to the customer, and the cadmium followed all the way through. Yes, plants do create some enzymatic actions in their roots to break these things down, but for the most part, the plant is sequestering it up into the plant, removing it from the soil, but putting it into the plant, and then the plant, what are you going to do with the plant? So, um,
Hempcrete,
I
brother.
like our system.
Hempcrete. Yeah, I agree with you. Your system is a cleaner. Uh, Hempcrete would be the next thing because I'm concerned about reservations and creating better homes instead of the trailers that are falling apart that I've seen out
Oh,
at
for sure.
San Carlos and things like that. So these are things that I'm looking at to try to help incorporate and clean up. But what you're saying makes more sense to go ahead and get the chemicals out and strip it that way. But I didn't know your opinion on using the sunflowers and the other. There's like four or five others that can be used as well for stripping those. But I do but what you said makes a lot of sense with that flowing up into the stems and all. So that would limit the use of hemp and what it could be used for. So
But building with it is definitely I've done that, and I encourage the use of those plants to build with.
mhm.
I mean, there's so many benefits, from the insulative value to the fire protection to the durability. I am definitely a fan of building, like you said, with hempcrete or hemp products,
Mhm.
for sure.
One of the things that Will has done that has impressed me, and I've worked with him for about 10 years, is introducing me to some bacterial type organisms that are surviving in very harsh environments. And one of them is called archaea. You can look that up. We can talk about that. Will's an expert on it, and he has a source, and it's been used for cleaning up radiation as much as it's been used to clean up arsenic or candium, and things like that. But what I learned with what Will's doing is he has a program and he has a combination, and it's not just set on like one compound at a time and another step here. And so when you were talking about that, and yeah, you can bring up a lot of these negative things into the plant. We do that with almonds a lot here in California, unfortunately, with arsenic and cyanide. And of course, that's a disaster once that gets picked up. You got to sort that out from all the stuff that's going into the huller. So what I like about what Will has been doing is he's using organisms, not just bacteria like Bacillus and Pseudomonas and stuff, but the archaea, which is like a real tough Mighty Mouse. It goes down and it actually breaks it into smaller pieces that are non-toxic, and then they recombine and become useful in the sense of new combinations of elements, that the elements in the ground are looking
Gotcha.
for to be able to be transported into the plant. So a little bit different idea is to break it down in the soil rather than to bring it up into the plant and then get rid of the plant.
That makes a lot of sense too. So now once that's done, what condition does it leave the soil? Does that at that point is it then we need to focus on recomposting and maybe rotating crops or those things? What is your advice relating to that?
That all depends on the situation. Like in your neck of the woods and south of you into Florida, you have to put in some more some more organic matter just because of the high sand
That's
content.
correct.
Yeah, because your things just get leached out so fast. So again, there is quite a few regenerative farming consultants now coming around, being bringing a lot of information. Like if you're into the food forest thing, I do a lot of work with Food Forest Abundance out of Florida. They have people, consultants all over the world that help people do that. So there's other groups as well. So I pretty much stick with what I do, and that is to apply the products to break down contaminants. So then you can then grow the healthy, whether it's just grass or food or hay or whatever. So that's my niche there. But on the farm end of it, all absolutely, I believe in putting organic matter into that soil because you need food. That's all humic, organic matter that all converts into food for whatever's growing there. And also the microbe environment, it needs organic humic matter to survive and as little houses to live in, if you will.
Okay. That's why my garden is so rich with earthworms now, because you're right about the sand and all. And what I have been doing too is this past winter we had a lot of limbs come down, so I started burning my limbs down. But before they got to ash, when it had the charcoal, I found that using that really helped my soil, and I've been testing my stuff here and starting to document that, and it's been quite an adventure that I have been
Oh
on.
yeah.
So there's a lot of things that people aren't conscious of that we want to help make them aware of that they can do to enrich their stuff without having to go to fertilizers and chemicals and do so more naturally. So, and
I,
go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment because I think you brought it up, is that using biochar is
Mhm.
both a blessing and a curse. You have to know how to impregnate it, or it can actually absorb and repel some of the good bacteria or fungi if, because of it just being this burnt coal, so to
Mhm.
speak, I mean, broken down into this carbon.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it is inhibitory to certain organisms. So you have to, if you're going to feed the biochar that you've created, you have to feed it the right organisms that will be able to reproduce and utilize the biochar as a carrier. That was a lesson. I'm working with some Japanese right now that are working with biochar, and
Mhm.
I've learned lessons of their failures from Will as to what we're seeing right now. So we're actually going to work on a biochar project this year. And I hear people using biochar as like a carrier for all these organisms. Well, a lot of times it'll kill some of those organisms if it comes in contact with them. So that's that's something that everybody should be aware of.
Well, my brother and I, we've been doing a mix. I know that here we have a problem with our pine straw here if it's green. One is turned totally brown. It is my understanding that all the acidity has broken down. And at that point, I am using the brown pine needles with the biochar, dropping leaves in it. And then I'm taking my garbage from the kitchen and literally adding that to it with a little potting soil. I'll throw a little potting soil in that so that it breaks down. And my earthworms, brother, if you want to go fishing, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I got some wigglers out there like that. So,
Awesome.
what you said about the biochar, I did not know that, but thank you for sharing that because I've been trying to make sure that it was broken down enough so that it would chip up fine. So it is blending with everything. So I'm glad to know that because that was something that I was not aware of.
It's a moderation thing. You don't want to put too much
Sure.
in. It's a moderation thing. Some people are putting just too much in,
Gotcha.
and it causes a negative. So it'd be like anything else. You put too many leaves in to your compost mix, you're going to get things imbalanced that way as well. So just be
Sure.
careful.
Yeah, that's
One
why.
of, one of the
Go ahead.
One of the things that Will made me aware of, because I quizzed him yesterday on the biochar, because I'm not an expert, but they're giving us this contract study that we're going to do for the company to see how well it works out in our fields, where we do our testing. And it's amazing. I also work with people that are trying to do sequestering and carbon sequestering, and the more the better. If you're putting more carbon in, then geez, it's going to be better for your carbon credit and all that stuff. Not necessarily. In fact, what's happening is people are using too much biochar, putting it in the soil, and it binds up or kills some of the bacteria and stuff because it's too high a rate. Yeah, that's the, so a little goes a long way when you're trying to add microbes to it.
Got you. So, folks, this is one reason why I wanted to bring in research scientists here because they understand the chemical components. And like he was talking about the elements a while ago. And once you understand that, there's a science to this. And creators really got a sense of humor because now we got the tools that we can use, the things from our ancestors with the modern technology so we can be much more efficient as rainbow warriors. Sand content. I want to go back to that. Composting, what is your advice for someone that's trying? Here, our sand is about 6 inches, 7 inches down. What suggestions would you make in breaking the soil? And for someone that lives in a region like the Southeast here that we're dealing with, what would you recommend far as trying to give a better mix for a garden and how deep?
Oh boy. So I'm a firm believer in not tilling too much or any at all. No till for the most part. So I like to just layer on the compost and grow on top of that. And then eventually the sand becomes not a problem and it becomes part of the drainage to keep the regulation on moisture eventually. So I like to grow and just have thick humic matter
Mm-hmm.
because the organisms that we use, the earthworms, and it kind of regulates itself, so we don't have to be being such engineers when we're adding and subtracting different ingredients. So I just like my compost or my organic matter broken down and layered in where I'm going to be I use usually raised beds, or raised rows to grow in. As long as the soil underneath my rows are not contaminated and drain well, then I just keep layering on the organic matter every year on top. So windrows that were basically growing in raised beds or windrows.
Mm.
So that's the way I do it. I don't do consulting much anymore for things. So that's just my own personal experience there.
Got you. I've got a couple of friends that I've been hanging out with and going over to their farm, and they're taking, for example, they got chickens and all that. They have built coops that have wheels, and takes two people and they're rolling them forward and letting the chickens droppings work across the field. And then they've also got some goats, and then they're taking and shifting that through there using that, which is back to, I think, more natural methods of uh, putting back to the soil.
Oh yeah, chicken tractors. That's a great way of getting fertilizer and other nutrients out into your field. I had a goat dairy for 10 years, and I composted all my goat manure along with chicken manure, and just that's what I use for my garden and the raised beds. So it's all valuable like that, especially if you use some of the soil savior products on your compost pile. You're going to break it down faster and make things available faster. So you're going to accelerate your composting time, and so therefore you're going to have more available nutrients to your plants.
Oh, I'm glad you shared that, because being me, I wanted it done yesterday.
Yeah, right.
And you know,
Like we're 5 years
wait,
old, right?
I'll wait for 5 years down the road for my garden to have the nutrients that it needs. So being able to use these resources to come into the soil. So how long does it take if someone was using this? How long does it take for, as a rule, would you say, to go through a typical? Uh, let's say if somebody's got. And I don't want to get a farm because that's beyond my thinking at this point. But let's say somebody's got a half an acre or quarter acre garden. How long would it take using that to clean the soils? And would you suggest, or am I asking this question wrong?
No, if you have contaminated soil where there was commercial fertilizers and pesticides used or biosolids were put on there, we did a PFAS trial. A PFAS, familiar with the forever chemicals that they're finding everywhere now in soil, in food, in people. Um, in 2 months,
Mhm.
so 8 weeks, we were able to digest 90% of the PFASs, or these forever chemicals, out of the soil.
That's phenomenal.
It was a 4 month study that had to be cut short because of something happened. They had to somebody sold the land that the study was on, so we only and were able to do it for 2 months, and we got 90% clearance, 90% non-detect on the PFASs. The On some of the radiation, the radiation, because we piggybacked the radiation study, which is uranium and barium and strontium, along with some heavy metals, arsenic and cadmium, and there was some other chemistry in there that we were breaking down in North Carolina there after that fake hurricane that went through Helene. We were doing some riverbank restoration trials. And that was actually in 3 months over the winter. We did those. We were successful to get those elements to non-detect during the winter, and it was right around 12 weeks that was done. So in the summertime, it's much faster because you have warmer temperatures. But our microbes, our system works as well in the winter when it warms up during the day, up into the 50s and 60s, and cools off at night. So we're still able to do work. It's just a little slower in the winter months.
Okay. How much, let me think how I want to word this. The cloud seeding, how much contamination do you think that the average gardener is receiving from that? Because I'm in a state that it's heavy. I know several places like Florida has started outlawing that, and it needs to be done everywhere. But how do you have any idea of the contaminants that it puts in and how it affects the typical gardener that's wanting to have organic foods?
I do, because I've tested the snow and the rain just this last winter, in soil as well, to show that it was in the rain and the snow and it was transferring into the soil. And so we tracked strontium, barium, radioactive, as well as heavy metal, um, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum. They were all present in all samples. We even tested mRNA, for instance, that modified, that's being
From the COVID vaccine.
from the COVID vaccine, but they're also putting that in pesticides now. And there was traces of that in the samples in the soil as well as in the rain and the snow. And we tested some, oh boy, there was 70 some things that we tested. I don't remember them all, but you can see that they were what we were testing: soil, rain, and snow. It was there in all of the samples. So we know that whatever they're putting out into the air is ending up in the soil eventually. So that's why, to me, it's critical that we would use the system that we have, because we know with our test results that we can break all those things down and turn it into food for plants. So we can decontaminate and make healthy food all at the same time.
And that's really important in this day and time, because the autistic level is so high among our youth now. And I know a lot of that has to do with chemicals and injections that's being forced on them. And so we've got to do everything within our power to try to clean up and at least make sure what's going in our bodies is more healthier and healing for us. Yes, Lance, I know you got something to add there.
Well, I mean, that's the truth. One of the things Mel knows I had a handicapped daughter, and it was a genetic defect, unfortunately, that was passed down through generations, every other generation. And Mel and I became friends over this after reading Danny Brinkley's book and getting to know Mel. And one of the things I noticed with kids in the hospitals that we would go into was, hers was a genetic disorder, but the symptoms were so dramatic. And there were children in there that didn't have the genetic disorder. It was a metal disorder. It was a contamination disorder that was coming from food, from the soils that had this light. It doesn't take a lot of this to interfere with the brain, in this case. But I mean, we know, and I since I've been in the pesticide business for 45 years, and the first 18 years of that, I was working for chemical companies, taking college students that have my background of what are we going to do that's natural? How do we get organic? How do we do this now while we still live on the hydrocarbon pesticide stuff until we get to that point? So they hired us young kids to come in and try to sway the industry to these new natural products. Well, it wasn't cost effective then. It didn't last long enough. There were all the negatives, and the company was making money up here on all the heavy pesticides. Well, I did see over time the reports, and we have seen it in the news, that these things get into the food and the water, and they get into our system, and then it's aluminum, it's this, it's that. It's these things that in a rat study or rabbit study may not show, because those are run very fast on short life cycles, but long-term results. And look at all the autism that's going on now, and a lot of scientists are taking us back to understanding that the autism was not genetic. It was not a genetic defect from birth. It was something that was introduced in their early part of life while their brain was developing, while their body was developing. It's very sad. But, I will tell everybody that one of the reasons I called Mel was because I was once my daughter passed away, our daughter passed away, I was seeing her almost nightly, and I kept thinking, is this my dreams? Is this my dreams? Well, no, it wasn't. I was actually going to heaven with her, seeing my parents, seeing other people, and coming back down that tunnel, an angel taking me down, a whole 9 yards, all the stuff that I was going, am I imagining this? Am I influenced by this? And it turned out to be very real, and had many discussions since then with other parents. And I can just honestly tell you that obviously these children that come this way, they're teachers, they've chosen to come this way, but it is also teaching us to get back to nature and use things that can help prevent insect damage, help prevent, disease damage, those kind of things. There are those tools that the Indians, one of the things I'm working with right now is a plant extract from up in Nova Scotia that an Indian shaman woman had helped find out that this was the cure for some of the fever. I mean, what was the thing that smallpox, that it cured smallpox. Well, of all things, this scientist that I got to know that was a virologist that Will and I both got to know, he was making remedies out of this. He was hired by the government to find a cure for smallpox because they were afraid that it was going to be reintroduced in, biowarfare or whatever, And so that whole story brought me into, how can you cure yourself from Mother Nature? And I learned so much about the product I discovered from the Waiuli plant, the desert plant, that was doing medical things and being very effective on insects and suppressing them while allowing us to eat the food without being contaminated. And guess what? Through all of this, I educated him on my product and he educated me on his, and we put it together, and it's a super duper product that actually cures cancer. Not only does it stop smallpox, but it cures all these different cancers, and people have taken them in pills, taken them in liquids. And, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's Mother Nature's medicine, right? And they come from all over the world, different ingredients from different plants, but not everybody's combining them. So I'm working with a company now that we're studying all the ins and outs of these things, looking at the genetics, and then we're finding out how to blend the ratio so we make our own medicines out of these natural extracts. It might come from Nova Scotia and another one might come from Ecuador, but now we're, worldwide, we're able to combine these things and see the synergy. And that's really what happened with mine. Mine's from the desert, from a root. This one's from a carnivorous plant that has this liquid in it. And the two combined are super for curing cancer.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand. I met Lance, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
I was shooting video for Unsolved Mysteries and doing some shooting out in the desert. And I did a video shoot with Lance. Beautiful interview. And then about the time we moved the chairs from in front of the rocks there with that beautiful background, we started hearing this little rattling sound. Well, there was a bear or rattlesnake.
About a 6-foot rattlesnake sitting behind me the whole time.
Oh my!
About head to head, except my head was facing the other direction.
That was how we got to know each other. So, and we've been best of friends since then. I want to ask you a question, and then I got a couple things. The enzymes that you're using that you're putting on your website, is it affordable to the typical person that has a garden?
Well,
For me,
yeah.
Yes.
I believe it is. I mean, because it's we've got the price down to where it's affordable for, if you're doing an acre, it's $75 for one application for 1 acre. And it's a complete nutritional fertility program. So you don't really need anything else. That we call it a 5-acre box because you can have multiple applications, because you're going to want to put it on multiple times, because the plant is going to suck it up. As soon as you spray it, the plant is going to use it right away. And so it's basically, if you have a small garden, a house, a half an acre, that's basically your fertility program for the whole entire growing season.
Got you. $75. That's pretty affordable. Now, let me ask you this. I have been warned about staying away from the store-bought strawberries and a few things like that because of certain fruits and berries that pick up more of the toxics than others? As research scientists, what is your thoughts on those things?
Well, I believe there is. There's so certain plants capture or sequester certain things out of the environment. Also, like strawberries. Strawberries get fumigated no matter if they're organic or not, multiple times from the farm to the grocery store. And so not only is what is in the plant that gets collected, but it's what is sprayed on that plant. I used to have trucks and would haul produce from either California, Texas, Florida, back into the Midwest to Minnesota, where I was from, as a young man. And they sprayed the fumigated the strawberries, the bananas, just about every live almost ripe fruit got some kind of fumigation when it went onto the truck, and then when it come off the truck it got fumigated or gassed again, and then it went off into the warehousing. So there is that's really, if you're going to buy something in the store, you're dependent on, you can't really change that. That's why I'm a believer in supplements as well, because I have the same kind of products for people to help as well, because we obviously have to eat food, and the best whole food that we could possibly find, but there's also taking care of our body, our vehicle, our meat suit. And so um, I've also used the same philosophy and creating products that do the same for the soil in here, our body, to do the same thing. Meanwhile, we do work our best at cleaning the soil and the outside environment up.
Thank you. I lost my track of thought when I went back to that rattlesnake with Lance.
Well, you were further away from it than I was. It really upset you.
I was on the camera, thank God. But you was talking about the enzyme in the extract. I've had a few cancer surgeries, and a few years back, this ear, they was going to cut a wedge in my ear because I had cancer, and Lance overnighted something to me. He told me to hold off 2 weeks on the surgery, and I did. I did what he told me. I sprayed the solvent on there. I put that extract on there, and the next thing I know, I started, instead of my ear just steadily running, that drip that was coming from that, all of a sudden it started scabbing and scabbing. And then next thing I know, the scab's coming off, and I'm back to natural skin again. So I am totally a believer in natural systems and those things, and that changed my life, and I'm still doing it. I got a little place right here now that I'm dealing with, but no surgeries, no more cuttings. That has made a difference in my life. So I believe in using the resources the Creator put us put here for us, and you guys are wonderful. I appreciate what you are doing to make changes to clean up Mother Earth, and that's what Rainbow Warriors is all about. If anyone in the chat room has any questions, please write them in, and Michelle, I believe, will address those. And yes, Michelle, please.
Raise my hand. Um, so yeah, all you need to do is just raise your hand. I do have some questions that were in there prior to. So for either one of you, Lance or Will, the future of the land development is not agriculture starting with soil alone. It is the design of coherent human earth systems. What do you think of this? That was one of the questions in the chat.
Go ahead.
No, I want you to say that again, because
I didn't quite get that question.
That's hard to follow. That's a really big.
I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
So the question, well, first there's a statement. The future of the land development is not agriculture starting with soil alone. It is the design of coherent human earth systems. What do you think of this?
Well, I think that that's a philosophy that's one to follow. And I think that as I've entered into my 45th year in agriculture, I can see what we were trying to do is feed a big population with cheap food and use cheap chemicals instead of relying on mulches and manures and things like that. But I think we're getting back to that now. However, the tools that we have are our knowledge from Mother Earth and from God that have brought us to this point where now that we've learned the fallacies of some of these cheap, quick, synthetic things, we're able to take back from nature and utilize those components that aren't persistent. You don't want these things to be persistent. They want them to be persistent so that they don't have to spray them frequently. But the reality is we want healthy food for our children and ourselves. And that's what I think I'm hearing is that it starts with Mother Earth. It starts with God. It starts with our knowledge and what we've learned. And going forward, we're not going backwards by going to natural. We have more ways of identifying natural tools. And especially my example, one of the tools comes from up in Nova Scotia and another one comes from down in Mexico. And we put them together and they're synergistic. That didn't happen until now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your answer. And I'm in New Brunswick, just saying. I'm close. Okay, so the next question that was in the chat is we can find this information on your website as well. So everything that you've shared this evening with us, can they find this information on your website? And I did post that. If anybody missed it, I did post their website in the chat.
From my standpoint, you can, right, soilsaviors.org. About my system, I don't know where they find Lance's items. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I have a research business and it's Beem Agro Sciences. And I really don't have a website designed the way you're talking about, but I've been talking to one of my friends that is setting up a website for me. I'm going to be working with Will. We're both partners, but we're also separate in different projects, because I'm more focused on some other aspects of this, but both of us are coming together. We've been friends and working toward this for 10 years. And remediation of the soil is like the key. There isn't a place in the world now that doesn't need some remediation, and it's got to be clean. It can't just be, sprayed with another compound to get rid of everything else, but then that compound becomes the problem. So Will's is the website to go to. I've done several, I've been interviewed and on those, so I'm going to compile those. But I really look forward to presenting now through these systems instead of going to meetings and presenting through, a PowerPoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
That only gets, 20, 50 people. But the things that we've been given as gifts to teach and share back to other people is what you're all about. What your whole philosophy is with, starting from scratch again with all the knowledge, that's been given to us from Mother Earth. So that I think is going to happen. And so look for, right now I'll be working with, I think Mel wants me to talk, and hopefully, Will is going to be here again next week. And I'm going to talk more about how the plant works and how we can manipulate the plant with very limited impact on the environment, in a big way. I mean, we've been able to see potential forever for 100% yielding, 100% of what a tomato plant produces is only 30% of what we actually get today. So that tomato plant should be producing 3 times as much fruit and be able to hold on to it. But because of all the things involved, even the genetics, everything that we should be able to do, we're not able to do. We're still only producing about 30% of what we should. Well, look at the land and look at the shrinkage of land. So if we could produce 50% instead of 30%, that would be 20% more of less land that we need to use for agriculture. So I think I think this is, for me, I'm 72, and I was telling my wife, if I got 10 years left, I'm going to just stay in this game and do this because I've learned all this and I want to share it. And, I think God is putting us all together. The fact that Mel, has reconnected with me on this and wants us to work with us, and I've been working with Will on it. We all have the same thought. We don't want to eat anything that's going to be poisonous to us long term.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your answer. Everything that
Well,
the
you
both
better
of
answer
you
the
shared.
next question. You answer the next question.
Everything you shared this evening has been really informative and certainly most helpful. I know that the land is important, and when we leave here, we're leaving. What are we leaving for our children? Like all children, and like the animal, that those are included. They're our children too. And so, what are we leaving behind? And so, it's really important. The next question was, so do you agree that wood chip covering is beneficial?
I do. The problem is there's going to be some problems if you get it too thick again. Here back to moderation, because if they haven't been broken down or allowed to break down to plant in fresh, deep bedding like that has not gone through the composting cycle, you could have some mold problems, some temperature problems, which are going to negatively impact your plants that you're going to try to grow in there. So I always like to compost my chips first, at least go through the heating cycle. But I'm like, again, I was putting my products on there to speed this up to create the breakdown of the chips, because you've got to digest them down. You can't just grow in them very well unless you're going to put additional microbes and additional things in there to add to the temperature stability, because that is always going to be a thing if you're going to use green chips. I always recommend you to go through a composting cycle first.
Yes, makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Valerie.
Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us. I have a question about, I have a neighbor who just sprays everything with Roundup. And unfortunately, right at the base of my little garden in my backyard. So I have noticed the difference in my plants. And I'm wondering if I were to move to raised gardens, rather than it being so right in the dirt, and use some of your product, do you think I can offset some of that spraying?
Almost certainly. Yeah, because the active ingredient in Roundup, at least in Petri dish testing, is 5 minutes to break it down. And so you're gonna give your plants the ability to withstand the drift from the neighbor's place for sure, and if not, just completely remediate that junk out of there, so it's not going to be uptake into the plants.
That is really good news. That is really encouraging me, because I was like, I don't even know. I mean, he's not going to listen to me, so you're giving me hope. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
That is super exciting to hear. Zon, you're up.
Thank you, guys. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a project where I'm working on the air in a very, similar way. So this really is awesome. I'm so happy to see people come together. One question that I have for you. I had a relative pass from Prion's disease. Do you know what that is?
No.
Oh yeah, I do.
Like mad cow's disease. It's like the
Yeah.
same thing. And from
Khrushchev
what I
Jacob.
understand, it's
Mhm.
it's a protein, but it's folded. So there's proteins in our brain, and what happens is it's in the ground, and I think from what I'm told, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's actually something natural. So if an animal like a deer or a cow or a goat or whatever eats the grass, that protein goes into their bloodstream, which hits the brain. And what the proteins in the brain do is they copycat. They copycat each other, right? And then it's like a domino effect. So this defective protein that's folded goes into the bloodstream in the brain, and then the rest of your proteins in your brain copycat that, and then you lose all your abilities, and before you know it, it's
You
fatal.
die.
Right. So now what was very interesting though, and this is the third time I saw this, when this is brought to, I guess, the government's attention, they make sure they pay for the autopsy. They will not give you the results. They'll tell you what it is. They will not give you the results. And they pay for the whole thing, and they make you sign off on all these things. There's something weird about that. So that's why I'm wondering if some reason this is actually natural.
Well,
Do you know
the
what?
result of the misfolded protein is a natural effect of coming in contact with poisons, toxins, and other things.
That's what I
Chronic
thought.
wasting disease in deer is really the deer e- eating genetically modified, pesticide-laden food, plants, which then causes the misfolding, and the outcome is a dead deer. I mean, because the nature does not support illness at all. It only supports the healthy. And so it's just a way that nature gets rid of the unhealthy in a much faster way. And it's all related back to pesticide residues, commercial fertilizers, and genetically modified protein. That protein you're talking about is genetically modified. It's misfolded. It's not in the right order, and then it replicates like a brain cancer in the brain stem, in the brain, down the spine. It causes all kinds of other things in deer, difference in cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Managed to in cattle to feed it genetically modified food and feedlots, but they have genetically engineered vaccines that they give, so the protein isn't quite so misfolded. So the game is to keep the cow or the steer alive long enough to feed it the junk food before it dies and
Right.
gets it to slaughter.
Right.
That's your fast food restaurant food.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you're right. It's a natural process. It's a natural devolution and protection mechanism to as the body, like the deer, for instance, eats the junk, the
Yeah.
GMOs and the pesticide. It causes this misfolding of the proteins that ends up generally affecting the nervous system, the brain, the spine first, and then death is imminent.
Yeah.
Now, I've
It's
seen
very.
that reversed. I've seen that reversed by feeding good stuff to the animals as well. Good grass raised with our products.
Mhm.
I've totally seen that reversed in not so dramatic cases. So there is some hope to fix that problem. You just got to fix the environment.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Thon.
You're welcome.
Okay, Jessica.
Hello, how are you doing? I don't know how long I can stay because we're driving, but I got my license to grow cannabis. I was one of the first people to grow the low THC version of it. I got the cherry wine seeds. Of course, I grew traditionally with fish emulsion only, all natural, all organic fertilizers. And I made a bunch of medicine with my cannabis. And when I say medicine, I mean topicals, stuff for your hair. You would not believe the cures for things that I discovered just through my own little messing around with it. Um, Pain reliever, best anti-inflammatory on the planet, all natural. And of course, it matters 100 million% that the fertilizer's all organic. Found that out by doing my own thing. So now these people, we can't call them idiots because they know what they're doing. They're putting Miracle Grow in it. They're putting all these chemicals. They're causing people to get cancer. And they're blaming all these health problems now on cannabis because they're growing it with chemicals. If you know anything about the cannabis plant, it cleans the earth. It's the best rotation crop to put in your ground because it literally cleans the earth. So it will drag all the soil, it'll drag all the impurities out of the earth, and then you can plant your corn or whatever and do whatever you want with the hemp, which some people make clothes. It's if it's not being eaten, then you know they don't care if it's got chemicals in it. Well, this is a human consumption plant at this point. People are smoking, eating, drinking, putting it on their skin if they're getting topicals. I made lotion bars and in the state of Florida that would keep in room temperature and literally with 3 ingredients: beeswax, cannabis, and coconut oil. And you can literally use those for just about anything. So it's, I'm speaking from experience. And now you have all these people coming out with reports that cannabis is harmful and it's causing just terrible things. They're not being truthful. It's literally what they're growing it with. And I correct everybody every single chance I get on the subject. And of course, they're like, well, who are you? I'm a grower. I'm Siesta CBD. You can look up my license with the state of Florida. I know from experience, it has literally nothing to do with cannabis and everything to do with it not being traditionally or naturally or organically grown. So just as fast as we get it legalized or decriminalized, well, now they're saying it's, bad for everybody all of a sudden, all over again. So it's literally history repeating itself. So I just wanted to say how grateful I am for this group setting the record straight from day one, calling these fertilizers out because this is the problem. So, and I hope that people can continue to fight for cannabis because there is not a better anti-inflammatory on the planet. And you guys are scientists, so I already know you can look it up and verify what I'm saying is the truth. There's nothing better that fights cancer. And the reason it fights cancer well is because it wraps around the fat cell and it smothers the cancer to death. But it's got to be organically and naturally grown. It can't be grown with chemicals. So somebody's got to get on the cannabis industry and force this. They can't grow it with chemicals. That has to be banned. Like, it needs to be criminalized. If you're busted growing cannabis with Miracle Grow, there is not a plant on the planet that will suck up more of those harmful chemicals than cannabis will, because it's designed to clean. It's designed to suck those harmful chemicals up out of the earth because it's a mother plant. She's literally trying to protect us. So I just wanted to say, Wado, I'm grateful for everyone here and spreading the truth because the truth matters. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And sadly, many of the things that we buy in our grocery store, the nutrients has been stripped from them. For example, breads. I just learned recently, actually last week, from a lady that I have known for many years, and she's never been sick. I mean, never been sick. She was a nurse. She's a school principal. And I was talking with her husband, and he's never sick either. And he's 75 years old. And this sucker looks like he's 50. I mean, fit is. So I'm talking to him, and I asked him. He said, bread. I said, do what? He said, bread. My wife makes biblical bread. And I brought, and that's when I started asking Michelle, and Michelle says, I haven't heard of that. Then I find out about the berry and the nut, and that all of this is stripped and sold separately, so we don't get the oils and we don't get the good nutrients from that. And because of that, the government allowed the companies to use a chemical synthesis, I guess that's the right word, to give us the quote nutrient that we need that is stripped from the other, but that synthetic just doesn't work. So that was a learning experience for me about that, and I've actually been trying some of that bread the last couple of weeks, and there is a whole movement now of people that are making their own breads and all, which is so much more healthier because it has everything in it. And believe it or not, everybody says bread makes you fat and all that. Not this stuff. It cleans your gut. It cleans your system, and that was impressive to me.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're getting close to wrapping this up for this evening. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to share? And we will be back here again next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. This will be recorded, mixed down, and be available sometime tomorrow. And I'm going to be meeting Jessica and her family very shortly. They're on the road traveling from Kansas to Florida. So we're going to have us a little later coffee this evening. So looking forward to that. Anything else you wish to share?
Would there be, as we had discussed, would we come back on next week?
Oh,
and
yes, sir.
then
Yes, sir.
Will and I will share a little bit more about things that we know about plant growth that you can accomplish with organic materials?
Yes, sir. Definitely. As long, and it's like I told, sent you in the message, as long as this takes, I don't care if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, as long as people are continuing to learn and we can grow and we can take away and we can make this earth a better place. And that's what it's all about. Rainbow Warriors walking into the new earth, preparing and making this a better place for the 7 generations to come. And that's not just here in America, but this is worldwide. So yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, thanks, Mel, for the opportunity. And thank you, everybody in the audience. Appreciate all your questions and heart. And everybody have a great time. And watch this guy. He's a rattlesnake.
Oh, he is. I would just like to let you know, making an offering of tobacco in our gratitude and thanks for everything that you've shared here tonight with us.
Thank you. And one other thing I want to remind, speaking of gratitude, the 28th is Global Earth Gratitude Peace Celebration Day. That's coming up Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
Saturday. All right. The 28th it is. You can go to earthgratitude.org and look at, join part of it at 8:30 your time zone, wherever you are at 8:30 your time zone. They're asking you to do a photo, do a video, and with a focus on peace. And so there's a few little things there, but if you go to the website, you'll learn about that. Again, please keep grandmother Mildred from out at Hoty Villa, my Hopi grandmother, in your prayers for healing, that we get her back out to the res so she can be back with her family. There's so much knowledge she has, and you know, we need it. We need it. And so I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Michelle, do you have any more comments you'd like to share with everyone?
Thank you. I love you all. I am very, very grateful. It's been a wonderful evening. There were some great questions. And may we take this information, sit with it. If you have any questions whatsoever, please just email us at rainbowwarriors.101.united@gmail.com. We will get those questions answered for you, and we will post them on our Facebook page. And I love you all. And that's all. That's all, folks, for me tonight. It's past my bedtime here.
Thanks, everybody.
Love you guys. Thank you all. And remember, you're loved and appreciated, and together we're all stronger. So we hold one another up. So our prayers are with each of you here, and know that, again, you're loved, and I appreciate you guys. I see a few here from different parts of the world. Thank you. Orion, good to see you, my brother. Thank you, sir. All right, guys, be blessed and have a good evening.
Good night.
I know.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, we rise, we unite, from the mountains to the sea, warriors for the love, you and me. We are the new tribe of the earth.